All right, we're talking about Chicago. Everyone loves Chicago. Rampant crime, homeless camps, a giant bean. No, wait. All right, we're talking about Chicago. Everyone loves Chicago. Everyone knows their hit songs like Does Anybody Really Know What Time It Is? Or 25 or 6 to 4, or Saturday in the Park, or Feeling Stronger Every Day, or Old Days. Alright, so I'm going to a Chicago concert soon, and so I decided to listen to every single album by them to prepare, but I've realized pretty quickly that their album names make absolutely zero sense. Chicago's released 26 studio albums, so they have plenty of chances to actually get the naming convention right. Their first album, made in 1969, is called Chicago Transit Authority. Okay, that's fine. That used to be their old name. A lot of bands, especially in the 70s, made self-titled albums, like Earth, Wind & Fire, Rush, Led Zeppelin, whatever. That's completely normal. Alright, so after the first album comes their second album. This one's called Chicago. I guess they changed their name from Chicago Transit Authority to just Chicago, and they wanted to make the change also on their album. Whatever, that makes sense. Later on, this was called Chicago 2. This makes sense. This was Chicago's second album, so you call it Chicago 2. So then we got Chicago 3. Alright, Led Zeppelin did this. They did Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3. So now, they've set a precedent. They'll just name all of their albums in chronological order. Alright, so now that we've gotten Chicago Transit Authority, Chicago 2, and Chicago 3, what do you think is next? Chicago 4, right? No. We get Chicago 5. Why did they skip Chicago 4? Now the naming convention is off. Chicago's fourth album is called Chicago 5. Then we have Chicago 6, which is Chicago's fifth album. So, because they skipped 4, we have to subtract 1 from each album. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to do math when I'm trying to figure out which album I'm listening to. Then we have Chicago 7, which is their 6th album, and Chicago 8, which is their 7th album. Right, so now they've set a precedent. Each album they create will be 1 number off because they skipped 4 for some stupid reason. So what album is next now? Chicago 9, which is their 8th album, right? Wrong again, it's called Chicago 10. Their 8th album is called Chicago 10. We need to subtract 2 now. Alright, so then we have Chicago 11, which is their 9th album, so they continue with a subtract 2 naming convention. So naturally, we expect them to continue the naming convention, and their 10th album will be called Chicago 11. But no! They name it Hot Streets! They completely abandoned the counting system! Why would you completely abandon the counting system after using it this entire time? Plus, they removed the band name from it. It's not Chicago Hot Streets. The band name is literally on the album cover. Was it too much to add a word to the actual title? So now we have an album with no band name and has completely abandoned the numbering system. So naturally, Chicago being Chicago can't stay with one decision ever, so their 11th album is called Chicago 13. To make things even worse, up to this point, Chicago has just numbered their albums using Roman numerals, but this one is just the Western Arabic number 13. No Roman numerals. Why change it after all this time? We're still 2 numbers off, and now they're using Western Arabic numbers instead. So of course, the 12th album is called Chicago 14, and we're back to using Roman numerals. They didn't even stay consistent with that. So we're back to Roman numerals. So naturally, their 13th album is called Chicago 16. Back to regular Arabic numbers, so now we have to subtract 3 from our album number, and we're not using Roman numerals anymore. This is insane! Why are we doing this? Okay, so for once, Chicago actually stays with the naming convention for a while. They make Chicago 17, 18, 19. All of them have Western Arabic numbers, but the albums are the 14th, 15th, and 16th albums they've made. Okay, so then they make their 17th album, and it's called 21. It's not even called Chicago 21. So we're back to not having the band name in the album. And to make things worse, they spell out the number 20 and then use the Western Arabic number 1. So now we don't have the band name in their album. We're 4 numbers off now, and they're using an inconsistent numbering system by combining them, using actual spelling for half of it, and then a Western Arabic number for the other half. So of course, They abandoned all semblance of logic once again, and they named their 18th album Night and Day Big Band, getting rid of the numbering system again for a single album. Then their 19th album, a Christmas album, is called Chicago 25, the Christmas album. We skipped way too far ahead. I guess I can give them a pass for adding a suffix because it's a Christmas album, and so that way they can specify that this isn't your just regular Chicago music, this is Christmas now. But there is no excuse to skip 6 numbers ahead for this album, and we're back with Roman numerals again. Then, their 20th album is called Chicago 30. They skip ahead again. This is outrageous. They can't stay consistent. So then, they named their 21st album Chicago 32, Stone of Sisyphus. Why are they adding suffixes now? I already gave a concession to the Christmas album because there was one to specify that it's a Christmas album, but this one makes no sense. One cannot imagine Sisyphus happy having his name used like this. So then comes Chicago 33. This one is a Christmas album. This one also has a suffix, which once again, I've stated before, I'm fine with allowing because how else are they going to determine that it's a Christmas album? So what's the suffix exactly? It's O Christmas 3. What is up with these numbers? Why would you call it that? And why did you spell it again? Why did you call it 3? This isn't even the 3rd Christmas album they made. This is only the 2nd one, so it doesn't even work. It's a needless play on words, using more inconsistent numbers. So then, after Chicago 33, we have Chicago 35, the Nashville Sessions. We skip forward one again, and there is still a suffix. So finally, after all of this, it stays consistent until the end. We have Chicago 36 now, their 24th album. Their 25th album, Chicago 37, Chicago Christmas. And their 26th album, Chicago 38, Born for This Moment. We're finally done. This horrific nightmare is over. Chicago really has some things they could have learned. They could have learned from other people. I mean, look at Weezer. At least they were consistent with their Weezer albums. Like, sure, they released other albums with different names, but when they released their Weezer albums, they just named it Weezer, and then had a different background color with 4 people on it, so that it was known that it was Weezer, and that it would be known as whatever color album that the background was. Blue album, green album, red album, white album, teal album, black album, whatever. Freaking Weezer was more consistent than Chicago. You know it's bad when you're commending Weezer for doing something better. Chicago's album naming conventions are a disgrace to mankind and deserve to be called out. Chicago, you're better than this. It's too late to change now, but you still deserve to be called out after all of these years for making everyone suffer. Any aspiring artists looking to make 26 albums like Chicago, learn from them. Don't make the same mistakes. Do better and save humanity from the horrible fate of not being able to keep track of which album comes when in the chronology.